August 6, 1945, Hiroshima. The first warhead in the only nuclear war was detonated. August 9, 1945, Nagasaki. The last warhead of the only nuclear war was detonated. October 1962. The United States and the Soviet Union, the world's two superpowers, are ready to annihilate each other over new Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba. The existing 20,000 nuclear warheads on both sides were put on the ready. The US blamed the Soviets blamed the US. The world's entire population waited in horror as only John F. Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev held the fate of humanity in their collective hands. What circumstance drove humanity to a moment in time where the likelihood of nuclear annihilation was even possible? What was the formula that created such a scenario? How was this most dangerous situation diffused? Is it possible that a single photo held more power than 20,000 nuclear weapons? Could a single photo dominate two superpowers? The Road to Nuclear Annihilation. Chapter 1. Software Drives Humanity. Every computer is a combination of hardware and software. The human machine works exactly the same way. The hardware is the heart, lungs, blood vessels, bones, muscles, brains, nerves, skin, fluids, and so on. The software contained in the human brain controls the living functions and dictates actions of the human. Free will? A computer has no free will. Software priorities. Maintain individual life. Human software number 1 maintains the human life by demanding fuel and operating all the needed hardware of life. Software number 1 commands the lungs to inhale and induces hunger and thirst. These three operations supply the human with fuel to generate muscle movement, cell division, electrical activity, and untold millions of other commands. Software number 1 also operates and manages the organs of the body. The human operator just follows instructions from the brain. The human consciousness has no need to worry about hormones being delivered by the thyroid or the chemistry of the kidneys or the amount of oxygen being transferred to the bloodstream. Life is automatic. Only when the software or the hardware fails does the operator even give this entire scenario a second thought. Rules for millions. Human software number 2 supplies the rules and regulations for humans to survive outside the human body in as large numbers as possible. These rules are contained in the religions, cultures, and societies that the human brain has created. To supply three very important aspects of human existence, it appears that the human brain created every religion, every culture, and every society. The similarity of human groups across time and distance supports this claim. With no real evidence of aliens, the smoking gun in every instance is the same human brain. Software package number 2 consists of 3 major subroutines that all work in unison for the final desired outcome. Subroutine number 1. Subroutine number 1 demands the manufacture of additional humans. Go forth and multiply is the creed of any successful organization. If this is not the number 1 priority, then extinction is inevitable. Subroutine number 2. Subroutine number 2 supplies rules and regulations that manufacture the best quality humans and keeps as many alive as possible. So far, these rules have manufactured 7+ billion members of the human club. Subroutine number 3. Subroutine 3 is directly related to the near-nuclear holocaust that took place in 1962 between the Soviets and the Americans. The third subroutine is a mechanism in the human brain that generates technology by tricking humans into conflict. The third subroutine divides humans into as many groups as possible and demands that each group create a singular identity from any other group. The difference function of this subroutine is to inevitably cause mistrust between groups, and mistrust usually turns into conflict, and conflict turns into war. The purpose of such interaction is to create a scenario where humans are threatened. When a human is threatened, the human must think or die. Checking back over the last 250 years, the war-technology relationship reveals that 90% of major human developments have come from war. Here are just a few of the major examples. American Revolutionary War gave rise to government technology never before seen on Earth. The American Civil War contributed medical, railroad, telegraph, and manufacturing technology. World War I defined airplane technology. World War II was responsible for increased manufacturing capability, nuclear power, jet engines, sonar, and rocket technology. Korean War added to jet plane technology. Vietnam War added more medical and helicopter technology. Cold War gave humanity space travel and a moon landing. So why do humans fight? If humans were not forced to fight, humanity may still be living in caves. Conflict between human groups usually results in three byproducts: dead humans, monuments to the dead humans, and amazing technology. Chapter 2. The photo worth 300 million human lives. The first and last nuclear war was fought between August 6th and August 9th, 1945. It was a very short war. 300,000 Japanese were vaporized, burned to death, crushed, or died of radiation exposure. This number of slain humans pales in comparison with the 60 million lost in the rest of the war, but it was the manner in which they died that makes these dead humans special. Lucky for humanity, someone bothered to take notice and record the event. If we follow the path of all preceding humans, the Americans and the Soviets will mistrust and eventually hate each other over several shallow, skin-deep differences, because that is what humans do. The Americans and the Soviets are exactly the same at the core level, but the software in the brain creates the illusion that a different human can't be trusted and is planning an attack right now. Already in place was the general mistrust between America and the USSR because of different languages, different clothes, different food, and a different God. This set the stage for what followed at the conclusion of World War II. Starting in 1948, when the Soviets acquired the atomic bomb, the two superpowers pushed their chemists and engineers to develop any new technology that involved weapons, nuclear or conventional. The race was on, and all humanity was either going to suffer the consequences of a full-scale nuclear exchange or just simply survive. The scientists of both countries did not disappoint. With survival the ultimate goal and with zero budget restraints, this competition between the United States and the Soviet Union accomplished the impossible in only 20 years. Besides building thousands of nuclear weapons, American and Soviet technology conquered space in low Earth orbit and eventually flew 2 humans to the moon for a stroll and then flew them back safely. This is exactly the type of competition the human brain is ultimately after. With nuclear annihilation looming on the horizon, the politicians, scientists, chemists, and engineers were working under the ultimate motivation. Times of great stress produce optimum human achievements. Times of great manipulation create wonders beyond belief. Is it any surprise that humans are always manipulating each other when the human brain is doing the same thing every second of every day to every human alive? With this competition between the US and the USSR explained, it is easy to see the behind-the-scenes workings of the Cuban Missile Crisis. After 15 years of mistrust, suspicion, espionage, and weapons buildup, the superpowers had no choice but to confront each other. The US outnumbered the Soviets 20-1 in nuclear warheads. The Soviets had nuclear-tipped missiles ready to launch from Cuba. Each side had certain advantages. Each side's military was sure they would win the day. How did humanity avoid destruction? It was blind luck that enabled humanity to pass through the nuclear window without total destruction. The luck was manufactured in the all-out insanity of World War II. There was so much destruction and death for so many years that the use of the A-bomb on Japan was a foregone conclusion. The rumor has it that President Truman didn't even authorize the use of the bomb. The atomic bomb was just connected to the juggernaut that was the US military. Also lucky was that Emperor Hirohito of Japan was willing to sacrifice all the Japanese people to defend his regal world. It was lucky that the first nuclear war was one-sided. Not only did the use of these bombs end the war, but it set the stage for the peaceful conclusion to the Cuban Missile Crisis. So there is absolutely no argument on dropping the bomb, especially since you can't go back and not drop it. Whether it saved 1 million American soldiers in the invasion of Japan and 10 million Japanese civilians is immaterial, as the bombs in 1945 truly did prevent any larger nuclear attacks in the future, especially in 1962. The images of destruction and the video of the survivors set a precedent that nuclear bombs are not a good thing. No matter how close the US and USSR seemed to be heading to nuclear destruction, no one on either side was ever going to launch an attack. In October 1962, there was a single photograph placed on the desk of President Kennedy in the White House and on the desk of Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev in the Kremlin. As the Cuban Missile Crisis deepened and each country was prepared to annihilate the entire world, secretly each leader was looking at a photo of the remains of a charred human from Hiroshima. Late every night, that photo weighed heavily on Kennedy and Khrushchev. There was no way in hell they were going to let this happen again on their watch. Humans learn quickly, and it was determined that nuclear warfare was not a solution to any dispute, and 70 years of nuclear peace demonstrates this. The single photo of a nuclear bomb victim trumped the weapons and the egos on both sides and possibly saved 300 million human lives. Without the sacrifice of Japan, the world leaders would not have been privy to seeing the results of nukes and humans together. It appears that once is enough to understand the animal that is nuclear war. Arigato, Japan.